Admiration can inspire, but for women in the public eye, it can also be a threat. The line between healthy admiration and dangerous obsession is thin and often invisible. Society teaches women to be polite, to accept attention, making it hard to recognize when a fan crosses a boundary. This conditioning can make women doubt their own unease, fearing they'll seem ungrateful. Obsession rarely arrives suddenly. It escalates, fueled by a one-sided sense of connection. The admirer feels entitled, and when ignored, admiration turns to grievance and control. For women, the expectation to be friendly can be a trap. A smile can be misread as encouragement, silence as an insult. They're forced to manage strangers' emotions while protecting themselves, often with little support. Maya's story is a stark reminder. The warmth of praise can quickly become a threat. This isn't rare, it's a pattern. Obsession has a grammar. It starts with praise, ends with threats, moves from public to private, words to actions. Recognizing this isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Women need tools and permission to trust their instincts. Society must learn to see red flags as warnings, not passion. Maya's story is a lesson we can't ignore. The burden shouldn't fall on women to navigate this alone. We must understand the signs and act before admiration turns to danger. The line is thin, but the consequences are real. Let's not wait for tragedy to learn this lesson. Maya was a respected journalist, her work connecting her to countless strangers. Fan mail was routine, most of it positive, a welcome part of her job. Among the letters, Callum reads began to appear. At first they were polite, formal, and full of admiration for her work. He praised specific articles, signed his full name, and wrote on clean, white paper. There was nothing alarming, just another fan expressing appreciation. Maya and her assistant treated his letters like any other, sending standard replies. Callum wrote every few weeks, mentioning he lived nearby and felt proud of her local roots. He described watching her on TV, feeling as if she spoke directly to him. This sense of connection is common among fans, and at first, not a red flag. The regularity and intensity of his praise were subtle hints, but easily lost in the noise. Looking back, the seeds of obsession were there, buried beneath normalcy. No one could have predicted these polite letters were the start of something dark. In the busy world of a public figure, faint whispers of fixation are easy to miss. But for Maya, this was the beginning of a tragedy. The shift was subtle. Callum's letters turned handwritten, and the tone changed. Ms. Vance became Maya. The formality vanished. His handwriting grew erratic, the pressure of the pen increasing, margins filling with rambling notes. He began mentioning seeing her in public, describing her clothes, her car, proof he was watching. The letters became personal, unsettling. Maya felt uneasy and stopped replying, hoping silence would discourage him. But the handwriting devolved further, chaotic, slanted, ink smudged. The mask of normalcy slipped, revealing obsession. The letters were no longer about her work, but about his presence in her life. This transformation, from typed to chaotic handwriting, is a classic stalking indicator. The breakdown of self-control was visible on the page. For Maya, the handwriting on the wall was literal, a timeline of descent into obsession. The letters became warnings she could no longer ignore. The evidence of fixation was now impossible to dismiss. The escalation was clear, and the danger was growing. The warning signs were written in ink. Maya stopped responding, hoping silence would end Callum's fixation. But to an obsessive mind, silence isn't rejection, it's a challenge. Callum's imagined connection made her lack of response feel like betrayal. His letters turned demanding. "Why won't you write back? Did you get my last letter?" Entitlement replaced admiration. He felt owed her attention. Silence didn't extinguish his obsession, it fueled it. He saw her boundaries as obstacles to overcome. The lack of response became a personal insult, justifying escalation. This is the psychology of stalking. The target's autonomy is erased. Every action is twisted by obsession. Replies are encouragement. Silence is provocation. There's no way for the target to win. Maya's attempt to de-escalate only intensified his fixation. Her silence became the reason for his next, more aggressive steps. The dynamic was set. Her boundaries meant nothing to him. The fire of obsession burned hotter. The threat was growing. Callum escalated. Gifts began arriving at Maya's office. Flowers, chocolates, jewelry. Each one an intrusion, a refusal to be ignored. Maya discarded them, but the packages kept coming. Then came the drawings. Crude, disturbing sketches. Hearts with their names. Images of her house. He drew them together, a fantasy he was determined to make real. The letters grew menacing. A beautiful woman like you shouldn't be alone. I can protect you. The implication was clear. He was the danger. If I can't have you, no one can. The classic line of proprietary rage. Maya lived in constant fear. The line between admirer and threat was long crossed. Every package was a jolt of anxiety, proof he could reach her. The gifts and drawings were trophies, evidence of his control. The veiled threats promised violence if she continued to resist. The progression was clear. Admiration, demands, intrusion, threats. Maya felt hunted, her boundaries shattered. The escalation was terrifying and relentless. The danger was now undeniable. The escalation peaked with a single-page letter, large block letters, thick black marker. No more pleas or declarations, just a direct death threat, naming the date and time. Fear became concrete. This was no longer psychological. It was a credible threat. Maya and her assistant went to the police with months of evidence, letters, gifts, drawings. They showed the clear progression from fan mail to death threat. The authorities' response was inadequate. The police took a report but said their hands were tied. No crime had been committed yet. The evidence was dismissed as free speech. They suggested a restraining order, knowing it was hard to enforce. The pattern of escalation was ignored. Maya was left unprotected despite doing everything right. The system failed her, waiting for violence before acting. She lived in terror, counting down to the date named in the letter. The man who threatened her was free, and no one was coming to help. The failure to act was a fatal miscalculation. The warning signs were clear, but the system looked away. Maya was left alone with her fear. The day Callum named arrived. Maya had reinforced her home, told neighbors, had a friend stay over. Still, she was a prisoner, waiting for an attack authorities called hypothetical. Callum did exactly as he promised. He broke in and killed her. The aftermath was headlines, regrets, and analysis. For those who knew Maya, her death was infuriating and preventable. The warning signs had been there for months, written in ink and delivered to her door. The failure was not a lack of evidence, but a lack of will. Authorities treated a clear pattern as isolated incidents. Maya was failed by a system that didn't see the danger until it was too late. Her death was the price of systemic blindness. This was the logical conclusion of a process fan letter: entitlement, rejection, threats, violence. Each step was a signpost on the road to her death. The tragedy is not just that Maya died, but that she did everything right and was still ignored. The evidence was there, they just didn't listen. Maya's story matters because the details are the language of obsession, the red flags. For women, reading these signs is survival. Stalking is often a precursor to violence, yet society dismisses women's intuition. Maya's story proves that doubt can be fatal. Early warning signs are subtle: too frequent letters, personal compliments, a sense of being watched. Intuition is powerful. Trust it. When a woman feels uneasy, she's picking up on real cues. The escalation from nonviolent to violent is well documented. Stalkers test boundaries, starting with legal behaviors that create fear and control. The drawings, gifts, and presence near her home were acts of aggression. Recognizing escalation as a prelude to violence is critical. Women must unlearn the pressure to be polite at all costs. Your safety is more important than a stranger's feelings. Maya's story teaches us, trust your instincts, they could save your life. Maya's tragedy must be a catalyst for change. The lesson is clear. Trust your gut. Unease is a warning system, not hysteria. Intuition is powerful. Listen, honor, and act on it. It might save your life. Beyond that, we need solidarity. If a friend is worried, believe her. Help her document. Go with her to the police. Stalkers isolate their victims. Community is the antidote. We must look out for one another, validate fears, and provide safety when systems fail. Your support can empower a victim. Institutions must do better. Law enforcement needs training to recognize stalking and its link to violence. Threat assessment must be taken seriously. The legal system must protect before violence occurs, not after. Maya's death was preventable. Her story is a call to action. We honor her by learning from her loss. Recognize the signs, trust instincts, stand together, and demand change. The red flags were there. The pattern was clear. Let's make sure we see it next time. Let's make sure there isn't a next time.